Hey guys, it's Dana, and it's time to talk about acronyms. Acronyms related to COVID-19 and your money. So let's talk about that. Now, typically I don't like acronyms. When I'm in a work meeting and people are throwing around different acronyms, sometimes I'm sitting there thinking, ooh, what does that mean? And it leaves me feeling like I am misinformed or I don't know what's being talked about. But often the acronym stands for something that's very simple, something that I get, I understand. But it's just when it's shortened down, sometimes you're left feeling lost. And you might be feeling that way right now in regards to COVID-19. I watch the daily press conferences and there's been a lot of acronyms being thrown around. So PPE is probably one that you have been hearing, and that one stands for personal protective equipment. And that is for the healthcare workers. There was a lot of talk about how there was not enough PPE, how they were trying to get them out so that they would have the masks and gowns and everything that they need to protect themselves while they're caring for patients. So I was used to hearing that. But then I heard President Trump say in a press conference, PPP. And I thought, okay, maybe he just misstated that and he didn't say it right and he meant to say PPE. But I looked it up, and PPP is for the Paycheck Protection Program. And that is for small businesses. It's part of the CARES Act, the stimulus package, and that is to provide forgivable loans to small businesses to help them stay afloat. Okay, so the initial round of funding for this program was exhausted very quickly. All right, so anytime I hear loans, though, alarm bells start going off in my head. And this program kind of reminds me of the student loan forgiveness program, where if you worked for a nonprofit for 10 years, then you could apply and your loan would be forgiven. And a lot of people, if you follow the news, did apply to have their student loans forgiven after the 10 years were up, only to be denied. I think a very small percentage were actually approved. Most people were denied because they didn't check a box or they just didn't exactly follow something correctly, something really small. And that's kind of how I see this loan program, this forgivable loan program, is that I think, unfortunately, in the future, there might be a lot of people, small business owners, who apply to have it forgiven or whatever, and they're going to say you didn't follow this guideline exactly right, and so it's not forgiven. I hope that doesn't happen, but it kind of makes me worry. And obviously, the program was enforced. It's put out there to help businesses. They're hoping that they are going to be able to stay open, be able to keep their employees and not lay them off. But it's still loans. And so they're doing so that initial round of funding, like I said, was exhausted. And so now they have a new bill that's out there that they're reviewing that hasn't been approved yet. And it is to provide more funding for these loans. And be very careful about those loans if you're a small business owner. Anytime you're taking out a loan, if it's a loan, it's a loan. So be careful. You may end up having to owe that money. Hopefully you have an emergency fund built up for your business, which is really the best way to be running a business. But if you don't, then try to learn from this experience, and maybe going forward, then really work hard to run your business without debt and to have a really good, hefty emergency fund, retained earnings, to cover any kind of emergencies like this that come up. All right. So originally, the first round was that $1,200 per taxpayer. And then now they're proposing $2,000 per taxpayer for anyone who's 16 or older. So even if you have a dependent, if your dependent is 17, 16, they would get the $2,000 per month for 6 to 12 months or however long this whole situation continues. And also $500 per child, up to 3 kids. So the first round of stimulus checks, that was $500 per child. It didn't matter how many kids you had. So if you had 7 kids, you'd get $500 per child. But this is just up to 3 kids. So that 4th child, you would not receive the $500 for. But if you are married, then you will receive $4,000 a month. And then if you have 1 kid, an additional $500, you get it. So that is what is being proposed right now for the bill. And I think, most likely that will go through, maybe not exactly $2,000 per taxpayer, maybe some variation of that, maybe a little lower. But that seems to be very popular. And I'm thinking that is going to happen, which is like very exciting for a lot of people who, I think that one is more exciting than the other bill that's being proposed. I think on Friday that was released, which is free rent or free mortgage for 6 months to 12 months. And that one I'm not too keen on, mostly because the idea of free rent, free mortgage sounds really great, but I think there's a lot of people who own investment properties, who have rentals, and if their tenants are not paying rent, then they're not getting that money, obviously, from them, and then they might not even have a mortgage, so they might not be getting the benefit of this. So if they have already paid off their rental property, which is something that I advise and what we endeavor to do, then say that they have a paid for rental property and their tenants are not paying rent because as part of this free rent for 6 months to a year, they basically get no benefit because it's not like they don't have to make a mortgage payment because they don't have a mortgage payment. So it's not really saving them any money. They're just not getting their rental income, which that rental income might be how they're eating. That might be the money that they're using to buy food, but it's not like they're saving money for not paying mortgage. So that I'm not a big fan of that idea, even though it sounds really great on paper for a lot of people. Woo, free rent, free mortgage, won't have to pay mortgage. I just think it'd be better to do the $2,000 a month per taxpayer rather than doing the free rent, free mortgage. So there's a lot of bills being proposed. So in my previous video talking about the stimulus checks, I was talking about what you were going to do with that money when you got it. So hopefully you've already gotten that money. If you haven't gotten that money, if you're waiting for a paper check, from what I understand, it's going to be a while because they really want you to go on to that the .gov website and enter in your banking information. They prefer you to do that rather than mailing out the checks. They don't want to be mailing out the checks. So they're really taking their time. They're being slow about it. And then hopefully you already filed your 2019 taxes. But if you didn't, you can go online. You can use your 2018 taxes. I guess there's an issue if you hadn't paid any taxes. If you go onto the website and you put in $0 because you didn't pay any taxes, that you won't be able to locate, where's my check? There's that website, where's my check? So there's a lot of issues going on with that website, but hopefully you've received your money. And if you are in a stable job that you don't feel like is risky, then you just continue to follow along with your money, whatever you've been doing, whether that's paying down debt, or if you're trying to build an emergency fund, or, but if you have an unstable job or you've lost your job, then definitely take whatever stimulus money you are getting and put it into your savings account. Hold on to it until we get through this rocky period in case you need it to buy food or pay your rent, which is most important is that you keep the lights on in your house, that you have water and all those things. You want to make sure your 4 walls are covered. So put those stimulus checks into your savings account if your job is, a little bit iffy. And if it's not, if it's secure, then you can use it to continue to pay off your debt or do whatever financial step you're on. Okay, so I hope that you are well and your family is doing well. You're doing well mentally while being home with your family members. If it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe. I'm here every single week talking all about money. We're a family of 6 and we live in the Philadelphia area and I work full time in finance and I do this on the side just for fun and hopefully to help you guys to stay on course and to stay out of debt. Okay guys, I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.